In the turbulent year of 2014, when our Sisters of Mercy at the Alexander Hospital were numerous and our church received the status of an Athos compound, a girl named Nina came to our church. With her permission, I will give her real name so that there is no doubt about the veracity of the story. Nina had just read the life of Saint Elizabeth and was impressed by her devotion to the poor and wounded, at whose bedside she spent day and night during the First World War. Even at 25, Nina was not beautiful, her personal life failed, she was no longer looking for a prince, and she was sad and disappointed in men. But Nina had a very sensitive heart, a pleasant, soft voice and an immediate response to someone's request. There are some people who have the ability to listen attentively to the person they are talking to and sincerely experience everything they say. And this is eloquently reflected on their face, like a mirror reflecting the words of the person they are talking to. Such people are not only interesting, they share their experiences with you from the heart. When Nina found out that our sisters serve the poor, she asked to work in a hospital. I did not grant her request immediately. She had to learn the teachings of the Sisters of Mercy. How to prepare a patient for confession, for Holy Communion and the basic experience of a nurse. Several months passed and Nina was successful in this area. When people came to the church in despair after their diagnoses, and I didn't have enough time to talk to them, Nina would comfort them with very delicate and tender words and prepare them to meet God in the sacraments. She was different from some of the other lonely young sisters who came to the sisters' community to fulfill themselves in the team, to be in front of people and to become interesting and pretty, wearing the white clothes of a Sister of Mercy, and eventually to get married. Some girls did this. They performed works of mercy until they were noticed by boys and offered marriage. But the majority of those who did not serve the sisterhood and God, but themselves in the sisterhood, remained unnoticed. Selfishness dragged them down. Thinking much of themselves, they did not receive from God the dynamic beauty that could be admired and enchanted. In time, they withdrew from the works of mercy and from the temple, even reproaching themselves for coming to God, but God did not arrange their destiny. Nina was different. She lived with the concerns of people and their problems and saw the image of God in every outcast and served them as if they were Jesus Christ himself. I began to take her to the neurological wards of our hospital, where there were 5 and 10 people with paralysis. There were many who were bedridden. There were those whose families did not come to visit them. Or they were far away and there was no one to turn them on their side or give them water. I must say that the nurses and orderlies were not always conscientious in their work, and our sisterhood often made up for this lack of care with their own efforts. For example, in one of the wards there was a lonely old man called Stepan. Nobody came to visit him, it was difficult for him even to go to the toilet and he needed support. He turned out to be a believer, and my sisters and I often gave him communion. I knew that his son was working abroad and in a few weeks he was going to visit his father in hospital. I blessed Nina to take care of this old man. She read the prayers before communion, read him the lives of the saints, bought mineral water and massaged the paralyzed part of his body. She visited him regularly in the afternoons for about 2 weeks. And one day, when Nina arrived, she found a young man sitting next to the old man, who turned out to be his son, who had come from New York not only to visit his father, but also to help financially for his treatment and to look after him. When Nina came in, she didn't realize at first that the young man next to her was her Stepan's son. She came, kissed Stepan on the cheek and started to adjust his pillow. Only then did the old man turn to his son and say, "This is Nina, my assistant, these are my arms and legs, meet her." The young man stood up, greeted her, introduced himself as Michael and kissed her hand in a gentlemanly manner. Nina was so embarrassed and flushed. Her face began to glow, to burn. Her chastity and her special grace could not escape the American's curious eyes. He was so touched by the fact that a girl who was a complete stranger to his father had come and given her time and warmth unselfishly. And it was so sincere and so incredibly beautiful, Michael told me later. He was going to transfer his father to America for treatment, but he needed another week to arrange some things in Kiev. Nina didn't know anything at the time, she just said hello and didn't even look at the guy, although he kept his eyes on her. Michael was about 6 feet tall, strong, handsome and had his hair cut short like a soldier in the American fashion of the time. Well, he looked just like Van Damme in his first films. But Nina didn't appreciate it, she was only interested in Stepan's health. After taking care of him, she left the ward and promised to come back the next day. When Nina arrived the next day, Michael was also with his father, and he worked up the courage to talk to the girl and get her phone number. He asked her to show him the lavra and the imperishable relics of the saints that his father, who had to part with his son in his youth, had so often told him about in letters and on the phone. When he was young, the son went to America with his mother, an American of French descent, who had recently died in America. So Nina took Michael to the lavra and other sanctuaries, and Michael fell in love with her. Nina did not know that Michael is a millionaire and has his office in New York on 5th Avenue in Manhattan, the main avenue of New York, and that he is an inventor and the state has signed a contract with his company for millions, and that he has a big house in the town of Greenwich near New York, as well as a yacht and apartments in Monaco. Nina knew nothing of this. She simply shared with Michael her love for Jesus Christ. And it is impossible not to love someone who loves Jesus Christ, because Christ is the source of love. A week later, Nina came to me with Michael and told me that Michael had proposed marriage to her, but that she would do what you Father will bless her to do. I heard the humble words from her lips and I blessed her. I blessed her because God Himself had blessed her with His hand. Less than a month later, I heard that the newlyweds had been married in Monaco and that the local doctors had brought Father Stepan back to his feet. A year later they had a baby girl and named her Lyubov. Love in the name of God, who blessed them and rewarded the son for his love for his father, and Nina for her mercy for the sick and for her great humility, which makes you happier than the beauty of your face. Amen.